So the next thing we're going to talk about is health promotion, and we're going to begin with just some general health promotion in relation to women's reproductive health. One thing that you should know is that a lot of women use gynecology as their primary care. There are some potential pitfalls from this or due to this. Sometimes they're receiving only gynecologic care and they're not being assessed for other potential issues. So other aspects of their health need to be addressed. So if gynecology is that person's primary care, then we really need to make sure that they're getting full assessments at those visits. You need to be aware that there are issues with access to care. There are women who have difficulty finding healthcare in general or reproductive healthcare specifically due to either a lack of availability of providers. There is a shortage of primary care providers at this point, or due to financial barriers. It may just be too expensive. Even insured out-of-pocket costs can be very, very expensive and can cause people to delay care. It's really common for women to delay care because of that. Holistic care is important. We need to look at cultural considerations. When we're caring for someone from a culture that is not congruent with our own, what are some of the things we need to be aware of? Well, first of all is communication. Is there a language barrier? And what is the appropriate way to deal with that language barrier? There may be differences in modesty, in the willingness or comfort level with uncovering in front of a care professional. There may be differences in family structure, who makes decisions, how are decisions made. Some people may prefer traditional remedies, and also remember that there may be some groups who have a lack of trust in the healthcare system or in care providers who are from a different culture, a culture that's not congruent. I also want to look at gender considerations for holistic care. There are disparities in seeking care. Women are less likely to seek care. And there are disparities in the care that's received. Women experience several disparities in the type of care they receive. There is a stereotype of women as emotional and overreacting. And so frequently when women present for care, they're seen through that lens. So women express their symptoms, and the provider may actually look at those symptoms through the lens of, well, women exaggerate. And the reality is that a lot of women actually underreport symptoms because they don't want to be seen as exaggerating. And so one example of how this affected women is, for a very long time, men were more likely to have heart attacks. Women were more likely to die from them. Part of that is because women may have different symptoms with heart attacks. Part of that is also because when women present with symptoms that should trigger an evaluation for a heart attack, they're often treated for anxiety and sent home. Frequently, women's health concerns are written off as either anxiety or hormonal, and there's nothing we can do. So that's a common occurrence. People who have a sexual orientation or gender identity that is not the norm in their region or in their area, or is less accepted, are also going to experience some disparities in care. You need to be aware that occurs and that can affect trust. We have become more aware in the last decade of differences in gender identity, and there are a lot of very prominent transgender people now that we know of. What do you need to know about someone who's transgender in order to care for them? Well, sometimes we really don't need to know that. We just need to take care of that person as a patient. If that person is chemically or surgically transitioning, that needs to be managed by a knowledgeable provider. And if someone has surgically transitioned, we need to make sure, we need to know if we need to make sure that we can give safe care. And the only example I can really think of where it would be relevant is if we're trying to place a catheter on someone who's recently surgically transitioned. Okay, someone who's had recent bottom surgery. Because in that case, if they've not had full healing, we might have some difficulty with that catheter placement, and we don't want to cause damage. So be aware that women's health has some very specific challenges. Women frequently put their own health behind the care of others, tend to underreport symptoms, but also are often perceived as exaggerating symptoms. And so it's very easy to overlook what's really going on with that patient. Okay, we're going to come back in the next recording and we're going to start talking about specific age groups and health promotion.